Moonlight and Curses. This was when Emiko was in elementary school. Her relative ran a temple, and Emiko had many opportunities to visit the temple during New Year's, Obon, and other occasions. The temple and the house are connected, and the relatives live there. From Emiko's point of view, it was more like visiting for fun than for events. The site was quite large, with the main hall and approach to the temple, graves and a parking lot, and the rest of the site was forest. I think I had heard that the forest area would eventually be used as a graveyard, but at that point, the forest was unkempt. I didn't think it was particularly scary, since I was there most of the time in the daytime. Emiko recalls those days. Every time I went to the temple, I was always taken there in my parents' car, but as I grew older, I realized that I could also go there by bicycle from my own house. Hey, it's summer, so I want to try out my liver at least once. Just before the summer vacation, Emiko talked about this with her good friends in her class. Since everyone was enthusiastic, a childish test of courage was arranged, but only the location had not yet been decided. She said, "Oh, my relative runs a temple there." Emiko would come forward. It was not a matter of deep thought. And just like that, the location was decided. It was the day of the test of courage. There were 4 of us, including Emiko, who were good friends. We gathered in front of the temple at 2100 hours at night. It was a night when the moon looked bigger than usual. The moonlight shining on our feet made us feel a little safer. It was already not a good time for elementary school students to go out, but they had lied to their parents that they were going to attend an event at a community center in the school district on the same day. Emiko thought it would only be for a short time at night, so she planned to hold the test of courage without telling her relatives, who should have been informed of the event. She said, "I'm going to go around the forest with a flashlight and come back." One of his friends decided to do it. Emiko was not able to make any special preparations because she was going to do it without the permission of her relatives. Everyone agreed that even if they did not go all the way around, they would spend a reasonable amount of time alone in the dark forest, which would fit the purpose of the test of courage. However, a last-minute objection came up. "But Emiko, it's your own relative's temple, so you don't have to be afraid, and just walking around won't be a test of your liver." One of them said. "Yeah, it's not fair." The other friends agreed. Emiko thought it was a bit unfair to be accused of cheating when she had provided the location for the event, but she felt a childish desire to show her appreciation for her efforts. "I'll pick up some bills or candles or something that might have fallen in the woods and bring them back to you. I'll look for it until I find it, and that should scare you," Emiko suggests. "Well, okay then. I don't want to wait too long and be too late, so come back if you can't find what you're looking for." There was a bit of a helping hand, but anyway, a quota was set just for Emiko. About 40 minutes into the liver test, the 3 of us were returning from our rounds in the woods, each carrying a flashlight. No one got lost in the woods, partly because of the lights on the ground around the temple and partly because the moon was bright that day. We could just walk at random in the forest and return to the one with the light when the time was right. However, the last one was Emiko. When it was her turn, another rule change came in. Emiko knows what the woods are like, and wouldn't it be unfair if she had a flashlight? Again, the friend from earlier started to say. "Yeah, the moon is out and it's bright today, so a flashlight is a no-no." The other 2 leaned somewhat in the same direction. But he told them to walk through the forest at night, relying only on the moonlight. Emiko was reluctant to do so, but gave up after deciding that the mood would only become bland if the last girlfriend tried to argue at this point. Reluctantly, Emiko handed the flashlight to her friend and went into the forest alone. "You must go out into the forest and look for and bring back things like money, candles, and sacred straw ropes." A voice called out from behind me, reminding me that Shimenawa are Shinto objects and are not usually found in temples. Shimenawa are usually not found in temples because they are Shinto items, but none of the girls knew that. Thanks to the lights around the temple, they would not get lost on their way home, but it would be hard to find something in the forest. It was confirmed that Emiko went to the forest empty-handed, but it was not possible to plant something in her pocket in advance to change the rules on the day of the event. We had no choice but to find something on the spot. We went into the forest where there was almost no light. Emiko had always thought that ghosts might be present, but after her 3 friends had returned without incident, she was hoping that nothing would happen on her turn as well. The grounds of the temple were quiet, with the only sound coming from Emiko stepping on leaves on the ground. As I focused my attention on my feet to pick up something, I became indifferent to what was above me. A bit of grass taller than me almost hits my eyes, and I brush it away with my hand. Nothing's fallen. I usually don't even know if people are in the woods. I can't see much ahead. It was quiet. It's summer, but not a sound of insects. It makes me feel uneasy. I look up and the round moon is still floating in the sky. We continue on for a while, stepping step by step. Emiko is horrified when a leaf that has been eaten away by insects hits her in the face. A spider web sticks to her face, and she hurriedly pulls it off with her hand. Oh no, I want to go home. How many minutes had we walked? I felt like crying. I stepped on dead branches and dead leaves. Sweat began to bead all over my body. It was hot and humid. The sound of my footsteps changed. I thought I was in a slightly open area. There were no dead leaves under my feet. The space between the trees had opened up. Oh, there's something. Emiko's eyes caught a glimpse of something, maybe 20 centimeters in diameter, and she moved closer to it. He moved closer to it. A doll? Although she could not see it clearly due to the lack of light, Emiko imagined it was a Japanese doll. I had heard that the temple also held doll memorial services. Anyway, if I bring this back home, I will be able to fulfill my quota. Emiko grabbed it with her bare hands. He felt the hair of the doll in his palm, but it was very uncomfortable. It was wet. It was wet. I wonder if the drainage is bad. Emiko lifted it up, lightly wondering when was the last time it rained. The part that seemed to be the body felt gnarly to the touch. Perhaps the contents had rotted from exposure to the wind and rain. But what was it that glowed just now? Perhaps it was the reflection of moonlight. But where in the doll could something shine like that? Emiko suddenly remembered a scary story. He brought a doll he had found back to his room, and in the middle of the night, the doll's eyes would light up and attack him. I'm a little creeped out. I can't afford to look for another one. I don't know what to think about the glowing thing. It must have been quite some time since we entered the forest. Emiko took it with her and started back the way she had come. Compared to the way there, the way back seemed quicker. Relying only on the few lights he could see around the temple, he continued onward, looking only ahead. Finally, they left the forest. When Emiko's friends saw her, they seemed to breathe a little more. Hey, you're back. Emiko spoke, her mouth slightly relaxed. She was out of breath, but the relief of having made it safely was overwhelming. Look, I found that Japanese doll in the forest. Emiko felt like she'd gotten back at them, but the look on her 3 friends' faces was one of fear. Emiko, did you find that? Why you found that? One of them said in a trembling voice. Emiko finally looked closely at what she'd brought back with the light. The thing they found was definitely a Japanese doll. However, it was in an abnormal state. The entire body was stained dark, from the kimono to the hair. It was the color of dark blood, as if it had bled heavily. The abdomen had been cut open over the kimono, and what appeared to be meat to represent organs had been placed inside. It was about to spill out, giving off a foul, rotten smell. What no one could look at were the eyes. 5-inch nails had been driven deep into both eyes. One person vomited on the spot. Emiko also nearly fainted. As her sense of reality began to fade, it occurred to her. The reason the doll had seemed to shine in the forest at that moment was because the 5-inch nails were reflecting the moonlight. "It's your fault, it's your fault. This is terrible." Emiko was unconscious for a few seconds, but her friend's insults brought her back to her senses. She placed the bloody doll on the ground and ran off. She thought she had no choice but to leave the situation to the adults. "Open it, please." Emiko went around to the house behind the temple and repeatedly pressed the intercom. When her relatives came out, she had to tell them about her ghost adventure, which got her in a big way, but she finally calmed down as she washed the blood off in the bathroom. Perhaps realizing that they would be scolded, the friends hurried off before the relatives came out, and when Emiko and her friends returned, they were no longer on the temple grounds. The bicycle they had ridden there was also gone. All that was left there was the bloody doll. In a postscript, the next day the doll was offered a memorial service at the relatives' temple. Who left such a Japanese doll in the forest and how did it happen remains a complete mystery. It could only be thought of as some kind of curse, but perhaps the memorial service was worth it as Emiko has not felt any physical discomfort since the incident. She gradually became estranged from the friends who had participated in the test of courage. Summer vacation started soon after, but she never saw them there again. The girl who had been so strict with Emiko only for the test of courage had refused to come to school from the second semester, and something had happened during the summer vacation. Time passed, and the place where the forest once stood became a cemetery. That's the end of this story. Thank you for listening to the end.